The Hunters, Iceland. This is James Kim. The teacher patted James' shoulder. Shall we welcome him to Dalvik High School, everyone? Hi, James, mumbled the students. Here we go again, James thought. Another month, another school. His dad's job meant they were always moving. James was 14 years old and well built for his age. Most people assumed he played a lot of sports. In fact, his only exercise was helping his dad at work. But since his dad, Mr. Kim, was a vampire hunter, this meant James spent most evenings running, jumping, ducking, and wielding a wooden stake or a crossbow. James glanced out of the window as the teacher waffled on through her "Be nice to the new people" speech. Although it was the early afternoon, it was already pitch dark. This place is a vampire paradise, James thought grimly. At this time of year, it's dark almost all the time. James looked around the class. Do any of them know what's out there? He suspected that they didn't. Hardly anyone in the world knew about vampires. James often wished that he'd never found out about them himself. Long ago, James and his family were attacked by vampires. He and his father got away unharmed. His mother didn't get away at all. Ever since then, his father had devoted his life to killing these monsters. As soon as he was old enough, James joined him. Dalvik was their latest stop. Mr. Kim had read about some mysterious disappearances there and was sure that vampires were responsible. They had moved from New York to Dalvik within a week. As James was being introduced to his new classmates, he knew his father was searching for vampire lairs. The plan was that James and Mr. Kim would observe the creatures' movements and habits for a while, then ambush them. But you need an education too, his dad had insisted. So here he was. As the teacher finished her speech, she ushered James to the only empty chair beside a pretty girl with pale, fair hair. She smiled as he sat down. "I'm Lara," she whispered. James nodded hello, feeling awkward. He could fire a crossbow with pinpoint accuracy, but when it came to talking to girls, he was at a loss. Luckily, Lara was chatty. "You're American, right? So it's a good thing it's English class first. That will be easy for you. You sound fluent yourself," said James. Lara shrugged. "I've been learning it for ages. Feels like centuries." James made an effort to listen to the teacher for a while, but students kept asking questions in Icelandic, so she gave up speaking English, and James' mind drifted. I wonder where that is. He's probably underground somewhere. Mr. Kim would be searching all the sunless places in the area, from crypts and caves to cellars. As the lesson ended, the class surged out and James found himself standing next to Lara. Her eyes glanced at his throat and she staggered back as if she'd been stung. Then she turned and ran. James' hand went to his neck and his fingers closed around the crucifix he wore for protection. It didn't take a genius to guess what his new friend really was. He reached into his bag, pulling out one of the stakes he always carried with him, then tore off after Lara, down the corridor and out into the dark, snowy playground. He could see Lara standing just a short distance away in the snow. She was shivering and shaking and looked very weak, but that could be a trick. "I thought your kind didn't feel the cold," spat James as she shivered again. "I don't," Lara replied. "It's your crucifix, the sight of it. Please cover it." James shook his head. "These only hurt vamps if you touch them. You're faking." He raised his stake, but he didn't attack. James eyed Lara cautiously. He had stood this close to hundreds of vampires over the years. Some had pleaded with him in soft voices, but there had always been something in their eyes, something hungry and evil that he couldn't see in Lara's open face. He found himself slipping his cross beneath his t-shirt. Lara's shivering stopped a little. "I don't get it," said James. "Why does just looking at a cross make you tremble? I've never seen a vampire do that before." Lara looked wistful. "Hundreds of years ago, when I was your age, I was turned into a vampire, but I always craved the company of humans, so I kept coming to school, and I never wanted to hurt anyone, so I only drank animal blood, never human. That's why I'm so weak." But she broke off, clearly hearing something that James couldn't. He turned to see three figures heading towards them. A slower figure was behind them, chasing. It was James' father. Everything seemed to happen at once. There were shouts and hisses and snarls and the sound of a crossbow being drawn back. One of the vampires leaped at James, snarling and baring his fangs. But James' dad had trained him well. He kept calm and raised his stake. The vampire threw itself at him, not noticing the weapon, and disappeared into dust. "Help, please stop. I'm on your side." James turned in the direction of the voice, Lara's voice, to see his father raise his crossbow and point it at Lara. Lara summoned all her strength and ran. Mr. Kim, who had already dusted one vampire, pulled back his crossbow again. Then James saw what Lara was running at. "Dad, look out," he cried. A vampire in a red dress was rushing at Mr. Kim, her claw-like nails reaching for him. Lara slammed into her. The vampire was startled for a moment, but quickly pushed Lara to the ground. Traitor, I could snap you like a china doll, I could. With a thung, a crossbow bolt pierced her heart. Mr. Kim lowered his bow. As the dust cleared, James helped Lara up. Are you okay? He asked. She nodded. I'm not that breakable. Mr. Kim looked confused. James, a vampire hunter is meant to kill vampires, not make friends with them. It's okay, she's harmless, said James. I'm a good vampire, Lara added. What are you doing out here? A teacher was calling from the doorway. Not all that good if you're skipping classes, said Mr. Kim with a smile. Go on. He showed James and Lara inside. Come on, said the teacher crossly. You have a test in 5 minutes. Perhaps we should help my dad fight more evil undead friends, James muttered. Coward, chuckled Lara as they went to meet their fate.